Well, hello and welcome to Zwift Knockouts. We're already into week 3 of this new test series for Zwift, featuring short, sharp, exciting head-to-head racing between the best esports athletes on Zwift. I'm your host, Dave Toll, and with me today is our lead commentator, Nathan Guerra. Nathan, Zwift Knockouts is something we haven't seen before at this level of racing on Zwift. How excited are you to see how this racing series unfolds?
Been absolutely amazing racing these last 2 weeks out on Richmond course. For the first week, we saw points racing in groups of teams battling it against each other to make it through for the 2 teams from each and every group. Then last week, we saw on the Crit City course the head-to-head battle between those 2 teams that got through. It was pretty awesome to see elimination racing last week, where riders that were last across the line got pulled from the group, and then it was the last team standing that was able to advance. We had upsets, we had victories, we had some of the best esports racing we've ever seen in this new format. It's been Jeopardy each and every week. Now this week, the Jeopardy changes a little bit with head-to-head racing, but again, back to points racing. So the strategy is going to change a little bit, trying to collect as many points as you possibly can across 3 banners each and every lap on the Neokyo Crit Course. It's going to be tight racing. It's a short course, which is going to make for some very high intensity, like we've seen the last couple of weeks. I think teams have been doing some homework, bringing their whiteboards, and a lot of strategy is going to come to line along with a lot of watts popping.
No doubt, Nathan. You really get the feeling that the unknown territories that we're heading into here has made it really exciting for our racers and our spectators. So last week we had a first for racing on Zwift, an elimination race format that you talked about, Nathan, and it was incredibly exciting. So before we look ahead to this week's semifinal racing, let's take a quick look back at last week's action.
As you can see, riders were out on course, battling it each and every banner to make sure that their final rider was not eliminated when it comes to each one of the packs. You can see up and over the top of the cobbles as well as the lap banners. You see the groups giving everything they possibly could to make sure their riders stayed in. At the end of the day, it was, though, one last team standing that was able to advance. Victories, upsets. It was absolutely amazing elimination racing on the Crit City course last week.
Well, thanks, Nathan. Let's take a look at how the tournament looks now. As you can see, that it was no mean feat to advance out of our group stages into those quarterfinals, and that's how we got here today as the teams showed down against each other there. And you can see that in our semis now, Saris No Pins has Beast Mode presented by Rose as their draw. That's tough, but actually there is no easy route into the final, Nathan, as Swedish Swifters will be squaring off against Socks for Watt. So these are going to be 2 epic throwdowns. It's very much like racing on the velodrome. The action comes at you in a very, very fast rhythm out here. So it's all on the line out here, Nathan.
Yeah, and there is a reason why these teams have made it to this point. So I think we're going to have a lot of strength between these 4 teams trying to make it to that final championship. So Cyrus Snowpins versus Beast Mode presented by Rose and Team Sweet Sisters versus Socks for Watts. They have made it to this point, and they're looking to get to the finals.
You can't afford to miss a step, no doubt about it. So we are locked and loaded. This is not a drill. Let's throw it to our expert, Hannah Walker, before we go into today's semifinal. I'll throw it to you, Hannah.
Last week, we saw riders sprinting to make sure they weren't last across the line in the elimination. This week, we're running a points race, so the riders will want to be first. We're on Neokyo Crit Course, which has 2 sprint points. The alley sprint at 400 metres into each lap, and the castle sprint at 2.1 kilometres. With only 4 laps and not a huge amount of rest in between sprints, the racers will need to ensure they are paying attention tonight if they want to ensure maximum points for their team, as a spot for the final is on the line.
Well, thank you very much, Hannah. And here we go. Saris No Pins versus Beast Mode presented by Rose. These are 2 teams that come in with a lot of appetite to make it into the final here. So we'll have racers out on course in just a few seconds. Nathan, this first sprint comes up very, very quickly. So we're going to jump right into the action here. I'm really wondering what kind of tactics we're going to see deployed here. Does one team want to get out in front of this and hit out from the start line and really push the pace? We will know in a matter of seconds here as it is on for our women's semifinal number one, Sarah Snowpins versus Beast Mode presented by Rose. So we're going to jump right into the race. Nathan, I'll throw it to you as we pick up the action.
4 laps of all-out racing here. Now, I think it's going to start a little bit slowly, though, as riders are going to be playing their cards and strategy as best they possibly can. As you can see, head-to-head racing. It's pink versus black out here, essentially, right now. And now, watch out for that name you just saw pop up on screen there. Alicia Haag, she is the dynamite rider to collect a lot of points, I would think, when it comes to a sprint section out here, and trying to make sure that she is first across the line. We do have a situation, though, here that seems going to be very, very calm at this moment, Dave, because as they head into this first sprint, I really think that there's so much on the line. They're holding back. It doesn't look like any strategy to try and jump ahead or anything, because it's really going to be about the kick here.
Yeah, no one wants to play their cards too early, and that makes a lot of sense. We should send a happy birthday before the hostilities begin out to Liz Van Houweling as she's celebrating today. What a way to celebrate your birthday. So just some quick details for you out there. Thanks for joining us. We've loved the feedback that we've gotten. There's 4 laps of racing. There'll be 9 total sprints out here, over 20 kilometers of racing. The finish line only comes into play one time for points, and that'll be double points at the end of the race. So Alley sprints, Castle sprints, scored 15 for the first rider over the line, 12 for second, 10 for third on down, and we've got a sprint coming up here. So Nathan, first points to be scored, and that'll certainly set the tone out here. You really do want to get out in front of this one. I would not want to be playing catch up and wait for that double points final at the finish.
As you can see there, they just went under the lap/finish banner. Across that banner, you will see 30 points up for grabs for the first person across the line. But now they're coming into the first sprint. As it does open up, it does look like Sarah Snowpins is going to open up immediately with Anna Russell leading things out. But it looks like, oh, she's just going to hold on, perhaps. I believe Russell followed up by maybe Kimberly Miller. So solid kick there from Russell, grabbing 15 points, Miller for 12, Van Houweling for 10, but Beast Mode really stacking that top 6 or so here, Dave. That's some good strategy there, I think. It's not just about first across the line.
Yeah, we'll have to look at the total there, but my rudimentary math has that very, very close. So good call. Jen Reel there, racing out of Texas. She's coming off of the Belgian waffle ride. She did 220 miles of extremely tough racing this weekend. So I've got to think that she probably the later sprints, her legs will start to come around for her a little bit. So, wow, that was really interesting to start things off here. And you can see that Beast Mode with 35 points, even though they don't win the sprint outright, Nathan, they filled in the middle part of that table enough that they're actually 4 points ahead after sprint number 1.
Yeah, depth of the team really comes into play here, doesn't it, Dave? I mean, you might have some standout riders that could grab a ton of points. And that'll be really, really crucial across each lines, especially that finish line with a big 30 points for the first rider across the line there. But at the same time, if you're able to stack behind and beat out the rest of the team on a consistent basis, stacking those points is really going to come into maybe Beast Mode's favor. Perhaps Sarah Snowpins, though. I mean, there's a lot of laps here, a lot of sprints, maybe saving a couple of matches, making sure at the back end of the race they can play some better tactics or take sprints later on.
It's interesting, Nathan, they say fortune favors the brave, and I would think that being brave is going to be the name of the game out here, to tell you the truth. Just getting after it. 20K goes by so quickly. It won't be much more than 22 minutes of racing for these ladies. We should introduce all of the riders that we have here. We talked about Liz Van Houweling, Nathan. I'll focus on Sarah Snowpins first, as Morgan Useni is an up-and-coming talent on this team. Anna Russell, a colleague of ours on Zwift Community Live, coming out of New Zealand, a former professional triathlete, mother of 3, who has really upped her sprinting game. I talked about Jen Reel, the rider out of Texas, fresh off Belgian waffle ride, and then rounding out the Sarah Snowpins team is Eleanor Weissman. Those are the 5 in pink and white here, and I'll throw it to you, Nathan, as Beast Mode, presented by Rose, is a German team. Rose is a bike shop there in Germany that's really embraced esports. This is one of the teams that rocketed through the community, but we've got a sprint coming up very, very quickly here. We'll have a chance to introduce you to all of the Beast Mode presented by Rose riders, but we're ready to throw down as Alicia Haag there moving to the front. Get ready for some fireworks here in Neokyo. Sprint number 2, Jen Reel now surging a little bit. Nathan, here we go.
And it will be the first time through the castle sprint. You do see the little green marker on the left-hand side. It is starting to open up. Power-ups being thrown. It is going to be let out here by Liz Van Houweling. Watch out. This is the first time we've really seen her give it a go. It is a little bit of an uphill grind here. Morgan Useni, Van Houweling on the wheel. Here comes Brittany Litton. And it looks like they were saving for this one, but Kimberly Miller making it happen again for third for Beast Mode. That's the first one for Beast Mode, but Liz Van Houweling easily walking away with that one. 15 and 12. A big jump here for Saras No Pins, maybe saving it up for the more difficult sprint, I would say, on the day. But there's still 3 laps to go. 57 to 75, though. A big jump for Saras No Pins.
Being very aware that it's double value sprint at the finish line, so the 30 points waiting for the winner there. The rest of the intermediate sprints at Alley and Castle are scoring 15, 12, 10, and that one certainly went the way of Saras No Pins. As you can see now, Nathan, they're surging here after that second sprint. All 18-point advantage now, so that was a big one for Saras. The first one kind of backfired on them a little bit. That time it worked out very, very well. So we'll see if the Empire can strike back now. Let's meet the riders on Beast Mode presented by Rose. It's a strong 5-rider team here. Sprint coming up really quickly. Actually, I don't know if we're going to have time, Nathan, and that really speaks to the course that we've got out here. The rhythm of these sprints, how many times can you keep going to the pain bank and making a withdrawal before they tell you that that account is empty? You know that's going to happen here, even though it's only going to be less than 25 minutes of racing. It's the intensity out here that's absolutely bananas. And here we go back to you, Nathan. We got another sprint coming in hot.
We're going on over toward the alley sprint in just a moment. We have to go underneath the virtual lap banner here in just a moment, and then we'll jump back into that alley sprint. Did you notice there, Dave, that the riders there from Beast Mode using their steamroller just a moment ago, interesting enough, while they were on the cobbles? I think it was a very smart play by them to do that, as it's not really worth anything anywhere else, reserving as much energy as they possibly can. Look at Morgan Useni. Now they're starting to open it up here. Here comes this next sprint section, a little bit longer from the little marker on the left-hand side there. So this is going to be a jump out ahead to make the chase happen, because Beast Mode have to do something about this. Essentially going to make them be a lead-out train. As Van Houweling jumps up to 7 watts per kilogram, you see on the bottom there, and it is going to be a ghost power up there from Liz Van Houweling. Will they even be able to see it? But they're just going to respond full on. It looks like to try and grab this. It looks like it is going to be, again, Saras No Pins getting the better of them. We're 1-2 across the line. Lisa Crom, Kimberly Miller, they're going to be taking that third and fourth there. But again, another jump. Still within striking distance, but 111 to 87 here at this point as Saras No Pins continue to stack the top.
Yeah, that one basically neutral. Saras No Pins taking a few more points in the lead, but Beast Mode stepping up and certainly limiting the damage on that last sprint. But they're going to need to turn up the gas here for sure. So on that Beast Mode presented by Rose team, we've got, and again, it's almost an entirely German squad. Cindy Friebel, Alicia Haag, who's been very active out here, Kimberly Miller, Lisa Crom, and Marla Marb. This is the Beast Mode team. So that's all of the riders that we've got in the mix here. So, all right, take a breath now. Obviously, the tactics being deployed, Nathan, by Saras No Pins. No surprise, there's a strong brain trust on that team. And it seems pretty much like Bike Racing 101 to me. They're putting riders off of the front, forcing the ladies in black to chase, and they're trying to use that to their advantage and jump them right at the sprint. But Beast Mode has been holding their own here. It's certainly not completely dominated by Saras No Pins, but they look really strong today, and Beast Mode's going to need to start doing something special here if they want to beat the ladies in pink and white.
And as you can see, it's all calmed right down. Alicia Haag at the front at 2.9 watts per kilogram, 3.0. Everybody just making sure that they're involved here. But as you see the avatars spread out across the road here, you know that there isn't really much of a pace being set by anybody. They're just waiting for this next section. Now, will this happen again? We've seen the jump from Saras No Pins the last 2 sprints. The first time through that castle sprint, through the cobbles and that little bit of an uphill grind in it. It does have a little bit of a gradient on it, so it is a very difficult sprint. If you get the jump early, you may be able to stay away. And we saw the domination from Van Houweling just a moment ago, making that jump. Can they do it again? Has Beast Mode learned anything here, Dave, to maybe try and play a new tactic and not let that jump happen? Or are Saras No Pins just the stronger team?
I would certainly want to get out in front of it. You're absolutely right, Nathan. Liz Van Halling was 4th at the Esports UCI World Championships that was hosted right here on Zwift. She's an incredible talent, and certainly at this point now has become a leading sprinter in the world of Zwift. So she's going to be really tough to contain here now as it's respect, I would say, between these two teams, that they're not attacking each other now. It does speak to the level that we've had. This is the semifinals. Only 4 teams remain. One of these teams will advance into our finals next week. 111 to 87 right now. Still, beast mode is in the mix. In no way that score, if it was a basketball game, that would be really tough to come back from. But things can change quickly out here, and we've got a sprint engaging. And here we go, Nathan. Sarah Snowpins on the front.
And just an absolute domination here by Sarah Snowpins here with that jump. The invisibility power up, just getting the better of them immediately here. It does look like Rose, Beast Mode presented by Rose, is going to be able to stack the next spots below that. But again, Sarah Snowpins with that jump showing that they've just got the better tactics as well as the kick to the line. I really do think they got the jump there on Beast Mode and got ahead of them, and there was just no time to respond. As you did see Beast Mode presented by Rose, they were coming on strong with a solid roll through. But the reality is you got to be there with the timing and the punch. Anna Russell now off the back just a little bit, looking to get back involved. We do see a couple of those steamrollers being used. Is there a pace being set by Hug? No, this is not attack. I thought for a moment they might want to counter because they are in a little bit of trouble at this point. 149, that gap is continuing to go out.
Yeah, it's still not completely out of control, but Beast Mode really needs a solid sprint here. And at some point, Nathan, you realize you are up against a really well-organized team, talking about this Sarah Snowpin squad. They are firing on all cylinders out here right now. And you start to wonder, what is the Hail Mary that you can throw if you are Beast Mode? I wouldn't say it's time to panic yet, but you've really got to start pressing the pace. And we're going to be looking now. So the advantage has gone up to 34 points here. So this next sprint is absolutely critical for the team in black. Beast Mode presented by Rose.
Yeah, now it all calms on down. They're going to be looking forward to that alley sprint again for that 3rd time as they head into lap number 3. Time is running out, 8.1 kilometers left of racing. They're only going to have 2 more sprints at each one of these banners, so 4 in total, followed up by the final sprint for the big points on the line. Have Beast Mode presented by Rose been saving something up here, or are they just getting outplayed? I would say they're getting outplayed here at this point, as Sarah Snowpins have been the aggressors. They've been really on top of making the jumps at the right times. Usetti now taking over the front here, as you do see 5.6 watts per kilogram. Again, we do see a layout. Now Miller here not letting that jump get the better of her at this point as they head into this alley sprint here. We do see Beast Mode here set up pretty well with those wheels, but they're waiting just a little bit now at this point. And here comes an invisibility power up here from Jen Reel, and they're just taking over the front end of the race here. And it looks like Sarah Snowpins are just in a domination mode at this point and taking over at the front. It looks like it's just pure power from them and not tactics anymore, as they really get the jump. 198 to 132, taking the top 4 spots right there in the alley sprint.
Yeah, it's starting to turn into a runaway ride out here from Sarah Snowpins, as they are absolutely crushing it. It's always night in Neokyo, and it looks like Sarah Snowpins is ready to put the Beast Mode presented by Rose team to sleep at this point. 7.1K of racing remaining. The points become increasingly valuable at this point as they are running out of real estate here for Beast Mode presented by Rose. They have got to do something now. I would say, Nathan, we can push the panic button if you're the team in black. They have got to strike now on this next sprint.
Yeah, and as
and
they
they're
do
not.
calm right on
So,
down, the heart rates they're not. No, and I think, you know, what it looks like to me is the pace at which this is coming at them is so high. Their recoveries are just not happening, and I think the fitness alongside of just the power that is coming in from this Sarah's team, the level at which they race with, I think it may just be showing to be a dominant force. And, you know, as we get into these semifinals and into the finals, that is the whole point of this, to really start to whittle things down to who are the champions of these knockouts. And we might be seeing a full-on KO here when it comes to what Sarah Snowpins are bringing to the table. really on
Yeah,
the ropes
agreed.
at this point, Dave.
Agreed.
It's on the ropes and in the corner.
And you have to remember, too, that the elimination format last week decidedly different than what we've got here. And it looks like we found the strength or the wheelhouse, really, for this Ceres No Pins team. They're incredibly well organized. We've talked about they don't have a weak link here. And, I mean, if they do make it into the finals, they're going to be an awfully tough team to beat in our outright. This format has been amazing when you talk about the knockouts, but I think we're seeing a command performance being put together from Ceres No Pins out here tonight in Neokyo. To tell you the truth, Nathan, it's going to take almost a miracle at this point for Beast Mode presented by Rose to make up the deficit that they've got now.
Yeah, it's up and over the top of 60 points at this point, so they'd really have to stack those top spots as best as they possibly can. We'll see if there's any chink in the armor for Ceres No Pins. We are going to have a couple of turns here and then back into the castle sprint. Left-hand turn followed up by a couple of rights here in just a moment. And as you see, Ceres No Pins just sitting in. Anna Russell at the back end of this pack here, really just getting ready to strike, it looks like. Speaking of Anna Russell here, I think what's really awesome to see from her is she actually takes on, it looks like, an invisibility power-up, getting a jump immediately here. She's already off the front. There's not even a response here coming from the rest of the pack. It looks like Anna Russell might just walk away with this one at a solid 10 watts per kilogram. The chase is on from the rest of the pack here at this point. It's even Ceres No Pins at the front end of that, but here comes Beast Mode presented by Rose. Are they going to be able to roll on through as there are a couple of riders overtaking? This might be the back end of the races. They do take second and third, I believe, or is Van Houweling there? But that, no,
looks like
excuse me,
second.
they take third and fourth. Yeah, so Russell and Van Houweling again just extending the lead, and it's a walkaway, Dave.
Yeah, and Rose Beast Mode can be proud. This is a team that came out of the community and has punched above their weight since day one. They're coming up against a mega squad that's motivated and organized and clearly brought their A game today. So no reason to hang their head out here. But these monsters at Ceres No Pins have had a tremendous ride out here. Tactically astute. They seem to have, I mean, I was mentioning that Jen Reel's fresh off of the Belgian waffle ride. Well, it doesn't show, as she certainly kept her head above water, and they've done a tremendous job. So credit where credit is due. The ladies in pink and white are showing us why they have become one of the best teams in esports right now. And there's Zwiftcraft, Nathan, the gameplay, and that's really part of what makes this so fun and so special are those power-ups that you see. And some more valuable than others, but today, Sprinter's Delight out here. There's Anna Russell in her signature headband. That's her trademark, no doubt about it, as we bring the group around. Few more sprints here, Nathan, but Ceres No Pins having a brilliant day today.
We did just see Alicia Haag giving a little bit of a go. She did a solid 5-6 watts per kilogram for a moment. And looking to try and get a little bit of a break, perhaps. It was definitely an effort that wasn't needed for any other reason than to maybe try and get away with something. Britt Litton there, put on the front. That was a pickup there that Anna Russell brought into the fold, actually, I believe, of Riot. And then from the community team Riot that Anna Russell is a part of, that's absolutely dominating amongst the community. Anna then bringing Britt up into the Ceres No Pins fold for these knockouts. Pretty cool to see her playing an awesome role in this knockouts race here. And then we got one more lap to go, one more alley sprint. It's about to set up. Ceres No Pins may be comfortable. They're not going to go ahead and send anybody off the front. It has been Yuseni's job, it seems like, each and every lap up until this point. Now Litton, though, going to be the lead out there at 5.3. Van Houweling setting up. And with this Pack Dynamics 3.0, being in the lead and forcing them to come around sometimes is the better if you feel like the stronger riders. It does look like Miller's going to give it a little bit of kick here and try and make this happen. Wow, now it seems that Beast Mode on the back end, they're going to do something, maybe go 1, 2. No, it's going to be 1. Wow, Liz Van Houweling does it again. She's unstoppable, Dave.
Boy, yeah, they just don't miss a beat out here talking about. I thought that was going to be a definitive sprint for Beast Mode presented by Rose, but nope, a bit of a kick save there as they're able to not give up that many points, and you can see the advantage has now gone out to 80 points here. So you talk about running out of real estate in Neokyo. They ran out of real estate a long time. You can see how tall these buildings are. But at this point now, unless, the math does not favor the ladies in black. And I think a defensive posture either way, to tell you the truth, they can roll the dice if they'd like to, but for the Ceres No Pins ladies, they might as well just stay in the wheels here and play out the sprints in traditional form, and it looks like they should be in pretty good shape to advance. We can already start thinking about the next race here as Team Swedish Swifters and Socks for Watts will be well into their warm-up now, as they'll be the next squads that we've got out on course as we go inside of 2.8 kilometers of racing. The distance was not the issue here today, 20 kilometers. It was the 4 laps, the 9 sprints, and we've got one more regular point sprint and then a double value sprint coming up at the end of the race.
And as you can see here, it's all calm, and perhaps we're going to see a final aggression from Beast Mode, just some final effort to try and make something happen, squeeze something out of this race here. But so far, we've seen nothing but absolute aggression coming from Ceres No Pins over and over again. They've been the riders to make the jump, and that kind of shows that they have the confidence, Dave, that you need in a situation like this to make Beast Mode chase, to put them on the back foot, and then allow the rest of your riders there to sit in the wheels and come around where they need to. But really, it's really amazed me so far to see the punches that we've seen from Ceres No Pins and for them to be able to stay away with them. Maybe a little bit of something learned for the rest of the rounds we're going to see from the women and the men about how you do win out on this course.
They had to have had a lot of confidence, speaking from Ceres No Pin's perspective, coming into this race. And it really looks to me, Nathan, like, well, we talked about the brain trust that they have. They came in with a plan and confidence, and they stuck to their plan. And that's a pretty successful formula, to tell you the truth. There weren't a lot of question marks around this Ceres No Pins team coming into this race. And if there were any questions, I think they answered them all, as this was a job very, very well done.
As we do see the left-hand turn, will be another right-hand turn in just a moment. As you can see on the right-hand side, or off in the distance there on the right-hand side of the riders is the next sprint point. It is a right-hand turn. Right about here is where riders have been opening things up from Ceres No Pins to try and maybe get away. It looks like they're going to keep things a little bit calmer here and play it safer this lap. Now the power-up's being thrown down as they're heading through that little marker for when the sprint does start up for the section. Off the front, it is Liz Van Houweling up into those feather power-ups. As you can see, Jen Reel now in that second wheel. Maria Marb trying to come on through, but Van Houweling's just got 12 watts per kilogram. It's a full 3 over what anybody else even has to give to the line. It looks like Beast Mode presented by Rose are going to take some solid spots behind Van Houweling with second and third, but it's not enough to come anywhere near. 225 with 303 is the situation with 1.2 to go. Is there going to be a counter? Because there is a lot of points at the line. The counter seems to be coming from the dominating force, and Brett Litton here comes right on through. Ceres No Pins send her off the front to try and grab 30 points at the line.
You can see she's going to use that feather power up here, making herself a little bit lighter for a few seconds, and this is just going to be icing on the cake at this point as we're down inside of 1K to go. Double value sprint coming up, but this one is done and dusted, to tell you the truth. There is no path to the final remaining here for Beast Mode presented by Rose, as even the last 5 spots would give enough points here for Ceres presented by No Pins. So a tremendous ride out here. They got out in front of it, Nathan. Didn't leave it to the end. That's a nice sign for the team heading into the finals that they are firing on all cylinders here.
It'll be really interesting to see what they're able to bring to the next race, as well as they are going to be going up against either Socks for Watts or Team Swedish Swifters. That one's really up in the air. But Britt Litton here off the front, as you can see. Alicia Haag there, 3.8 watts per kilogram to try and close things down. And it's all for pride here at this point, as Haag now closes it down to Litton. There's not going to be any kind of chase coming in from the rest of Ceres No Pins until they kick it to the line. And here we go, invisibility power-ups, it looks like. Morgan Useni as well, they're coming on through with that steamroller. Lots of drafts being thrown down, and it's going to be, again, Van Houweling out of the group. Beast Mode presented by Rose with some solid placings, but it's only going to be for third through fifth, as first and second, again, go to Ceres No Pins. Brittany Litton taking it down. Liz Van Houweling. It's going to be Lisa Kral, Maria Marb, and Alicia Haag for your top 5. Anna Russell, Morgan Cindy, and Jen Reel rounding things out. And Beast Mode crossing the line with Cindy Freebo and Kimberly Miller rounding out your top 10.
Well, it was a good battle, and the first time that we've ever seen this format on display. So that was a clinic, to be honest, from our friends at Sarah's No Pins. Happy birthday again to Molly Van Howling. That's the icing on top of the cake for her sporting element of her birthday today. So time to go celebrate. Some tactically astute racing, though. And Nathan, you know Anna Russell well as a colleague of yours, and she has had a brilliant mind for racing tactics. And that came into play out here as well, having to go from all of the different formats as we came out of our group racing into elimination. Each week has been different here in Zwift Knockouts.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the tactics that were played out by Sarah's No Pins out there today. You know, this crit course out on Neokyo definitely has a lot of turns. There's a sharp right-hand turn into that castle sprint, which jumping up there first, your avatar does kind of end up on the inside of that corners, those two corners. I did see Anna go twice at that point, as well as Liz Van Howling, I think, getting the jump there. And I think it might have given them a little bit of a gap in each and every lap. Something to really pay attention to there that I'm not sure a lot of racers understand is that you can be the first into a corner and get a little bit of a gap. And there's not a lot of drafting on the corners, obviously. Also, through that alley sprint, there's a little bit of a sidewinder snaking through. Another section where we've seen Sarah's No Pins take command, jump to the front, not a whole lot of draft there, and bam, you can see that beast mode presented by Rose on the back foot and not really getting the draft you would traditionally get in a sprinting situation. Very different tactics that need to be brought to this course to get the best out of the other riders.
Talked about how this is a lot like track racing. That certainly seemed true here today, as the point sprint format and the distance as well, 20K of racing, very much like what you would see in a points race at the velodrome. So it's clear now that the sprinters teams, or the teams that have sprinting talent on them, have a bit of an advantage out here, don't they? This is not your GC type racing that we see in esports quite frequently, but rather that powerful, those short bursts. We talked about that at the opening of the broadcast. It's a sprinter's delight out there today, Nathan.
It definitely is. We saw nothing but neuromuscular punching that took it out today. There wasn't really any counters that were able to go much of anywhere. That may have been the reality of Sarah's No Pins level as far as the athletes that they have to be able to shut things down. It'll be interesting to see if we see something any different at all from what's coming to the table from these next two teams with Socks for Watts' Team Swedish Zwifters, if we see other tactics, or is this just the reality of this course, that there just isn't really anything you can do to try and get away? You say the racers make the race a lot, Dave. And from what I saw from that pack out there was a lot of 3 watts per kilogram, 2.5 watts per kilogram. It was almost like they'd shook hands and said, this is what we're doing. I'm wondering if we might see something a little bit different and not so much hand holding, or that we like to say sometimes, or handshakes as far as like, no, this is just going to be a sprint to the line. Will we see more risks perhaps in the next race?
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Or will it be conservative? Because I had thought that Sarah's No Pins, Nathan, might jump out in front of this, but they actually played the conservative game, and it worked out for them, just letting the sprints come naturally out there. So we've got another women's race to look forward to. And let's take a look at what we're going to be enjoying here. The same exact format, but this time it'll be Team Swedish Zwifters versus Socks for Watts. Nathan, what should we look forward to here? What's going to be different than what we just saw from Beast Mode and Sarah's No Pins?
Well, from that Team Swedish Zwifters, it was almost, I felt like, a little bit of an upset that they came through. At least the way that they played it, they were able to just break down their competition last week. Anna Embring coming to the table, Anna Svardström. We've got Lisa Hermansson, as well as Sarah London and Marlene Jarhid, all coming to the line, to the race up against Socks for Watts. With Socks for Watts, we've got Kat Haynes, Alina Wuyan, Ruth Shire, Sydney Andrew, and get this, Katie Loker is guest riding for Socks for Watts. And I've already seen in chat some Katie hype coming on through. I mean, you can't stop this girl. It's going to be nothing but wop bombs with Loker involved here. And that is going to be a ringer that's been brought in for Socks for Watts. The Team Swedish Zwifters got to be kind of going raised eyebrows a little bit.
That being said, there's always a counter for a team's strength. What is that counter, Nathan? Would it be by attacking her early and trying to get her behind the 8 ball? That would be my thought, as we're now just over 3 minutes away from starting this race. But on paper, Katie Locher, to me, Nathan, is the best sprinter in this race. I don't think too many people would argue that. What do? Do you start attacking her from the gun?
Yeah, no handshakes. No holding hands. There's reality that last week, part of the reason why we saw Electric Spirit Co. eliminated was that if you get Locher's heart rate high enough, it's not coming back down. And she's not going to be able to push the kick. She's not going to be able to set up, especially with the castle sprint and the uphill grind with the castle sprint that is there. There is the opportunity to break socks for Watson, especially their stronger riders. I mean, Sydney Andrew, Ruth Shire, Alina Wu Yan, these riders, I think they're going to be the riders you're going to be watching out for, closing down those gaps that maybe Team Swedish Swifters are going to try and make some moves and break the reality that is the Watt bomb that is Katie Locher. So I think that may be something that we'll see playing out here, because going to the line with Katie and letting her rest between those sprints is just danger for your team.
That's your worst case scenario. You've got to put her under pressure. And I know that they realize that. And to tell you the truth, Nathan, the Swedes will have that ability. They have tremendous depth on this team. You can expect an absolute battle royale going on out here. It's strength versus strength, and we will find a worthy winner. I will guarantee you that. We're inside 2 minutes to start. You know the warm-ups have been well underway. This is going to be a straight-up Donnybrook. Again, the format is straight ahead. It's a points race versus 2 teams. Rather than 18 individuals out there, this is mano a mano, team versus team. The points, the first alley sprints and castle sprints all score the same. 15 for the first rider over the line, 12 for second, 10 for third. The value at the final sprint will be critical. And I have a feeling, Nathan, this race, we're going to go down to that last sprint. I expect this to be quite a bit closer than what we saw in the first race, where Sarah Snowpins punches their ticket to advance into the final. There's one spot left for the women, and it'll be one of these 2 teams. Will it be the Swedish Swifters or Socks for Watts? Let's brace ourselves, Nathan. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and there are some vetoes out here when it does come to the power-ups. Team Swedish Swifters got rid of the burrito, it sounds like, and Socks for Watts, the anvil. So Arrow is involved, Feather is involved. I think those are going to be absolutely crucial when it comes to those sprint banners out there. Obviously, I think having the Feather power-up on that sprint section into the castle with a little bit of an uphill grind and the jump that it is around that corner, that Feather, I think, is almost as good as an Arrow power-up coming through that section. So it'll be interesting to see how that ends up playing out. Team Swedish Swifters, Socks for Watts, 2 community teams that have been raised up out of the community, actually. These are definitely long-standing community teams with a little bit of a jolt put into their teams with the reality of some of these newer riders like Locher that we're seeing here in the top level of racing.
Well, we're going to go straight to Hannah Walker for our explainer on the course. Hannah, take it away.
Last week we saw riders sprinting to make sure they weren't last across the line in the elimination. This week we're running a points race, so the riders will want to be first. We're on Neokyo Crit Course, which has 2 sprint points. The alley sprint at 400 metres into each lap, and the castle sprint at 2.1 kilometres. With only 4 laps and not a huge amount of rest in between sprints, the racers will need to ensure they are paying attention tonight if they want to ensure maximum points for their team, as a spot for the final is on the line.
All right, well, thank you very much, Hannah. You can see the jerseys. You'll get to know them quite well here over the next 20K as Team Swedish Swifters, one of the original teams in esports, and Socks for Watts, a team that has tremendous energy. The Socks for Watts Nation, over 200 riders racing at all the different levels in our community, and this is the cream of the crop. We've talked a lot about Katie Locher, Sydney Andrew. That's from the Socks for Watts side. The depth on Swedish Swifters was to jump right into the race. And let me introduce to you the riders to watch here for the Swedes. Anna Embring, Anna Svartström, Lisa Hermansson, Sarah London, and Marlene Bjarhead. It's a talented squad, Nathan. That's a lot of blue on your screen. So the jersey with the white, that will be the Swedes. And then Socks for Watts, you've gotten to know very, very well in all of our Zwift Community Live racing that we see. And it looks like that jersey all over the front right now. So we're going to jump right in with our first sprint here, scoring 15, 12, 10 on down. We'll put our first points up on the table.
Yeah, and Sox Watts maybe a little bit on the back foot here at this point. Sydney Andrew, I believe, was off the front for just a little while early on to try and make some attacks. London up and over, we're seeing 15 watts per kilogram coming from her, and it looks like it's going to be Swedish Zwifters, Anna Embring. Woo!
That was pretty.
Perhaps we weren't looking at their profiles. Maybe we should have been checking out their power profiles a little bit more prior to this, because I think Team Swedish Zwifters just gave me a little bit of a punch in the mouth. Not just Soccer Watts for what they just showed us.
Yeah, I didn't expect that, to be honest. Katie Loker getting caught behind the 8-ball there. I was anticipating, Nathan, I'll be honest with you, that we were going to see Loker taking that first sprint with a bunch of Swedes chasing her vapor through. So clearly not the start that Socks for Watts wanted. That was a stunner here. You could not dominate that first sprint any more than the Swedes did. So they threw a haymaker to start this one, and in all honesty, that's got to be devastating for Socks for Watts. Let's see how they respond. You know, they really talk about character, Nathan, is when you get knocked down, do you get back up again? And this is going to be their chance to get back up. Let's see what Kat Haynes, Elena Wuhan, Ruth Schreier, Sydney Andrew, and Katie Loker can do. They say everybody shows up at a race with a plan. Actually, at a fight with a plan is what Mike Tyson said, until you get hit in the mouth. Well, they just got slugged.
Definitely, and as you can see, the depth of Team Swedish Zwifters showing up here with almost every one of their riders there, Dave, in that first sprint was pushing 12 to 15 watts per kilogram. If I were Saris Nopins right now, my eyeballs would be going wide, because we saw Liz Van Halen with, I think, a max of 12 to 13 maybe, and the rest of the riders there in that last race, 10 to 12. Team Swedish Zwifters are bringing a whole new level. And were Saris Nopins only doing what they needed? I don't think so. This may be, watch out for this team. Now, we do have a different format next week, so perhaps, you know, it's not going to shine quite as much, but it's obviously shining here. Now, were Sox Watts holding anything back? Were they testing the waters? I don't think so with so much on the line. 51 to 15 is a lot of points, Dave.
Yeah, if they were, that would not be a winning formula for sure. And I agree with you. Saris Nopins has got to be watching this and thinking, well, we don't want to do this with these ladies. I'm glad that we've got a new format for our final. We'll have a chance to talk about that. So, again, you have to sustain this here. We've got a lot of points still out on course. I mean, we've only done one sprint out here, so I'm not going to write off Socks for Watts yet, Nathan, but clearly they need to respond to this aggression from the Swedes. Something you don't hear often.
Yeah, it'd be a right-hand turn now. They're going to be setting up. Yeah, right. You're right there, Dave. This is going to be interesting to see if they can change things up here for Socks for Watts. It looks like Sydney Andrews going to open up at 5 watts per kilogram. She does get a little bit of a jump here. Now they need to go. No waiting, and just so much waiting here now. We see Anna Dragstrom. They're going to come with so much speed, as you can see, coming right on through. Right-hand turn, and now it's going to be a left right on into the sprint banner now. 7 watts per kilogram coming from Haynes, and now it looks like to the line. Team Swedish Zwifters timing it perfectly. And again, well, this time perhaps we've got some Socks Watts. Katie Loker doing what she's supposed to do, coming in the ringer, at least taking the first spot, but Team Swedish Zwifters the next 4 spots below. Whew, still a tough one.
So, yeah, Nathan, I mean, that's the Katie Loker we expected to see. Unfortunately, I can't believe I'm saying too little too late right now. Not from Katie, but her team.
Ruth Shire over the top, Sydney Andrew. They know what they got to do, Dave. Sorry to interrupt you, but there's an absolute Donnybrook going off the front, as you would say here. And this is Andrew at 6.4. Haynes is there as well. And they are saying we cannot wait for Team Swedish Zwifters to dominate us on these sprints.
I love it. This is exactly what they needed to do. So here we go, folks. We're going to shift into a new mode as Sox for Watts is not going to lay down and be trounced. So don't tread on me is what they're saying now. So they're taking it to the Swedes, but it looks like they're responding pretty well out here as Marlene Bjarhead and Sarah London are leading up the chase. Marlene Bjarhead is a world-class racer, so let's see what she can do here. Now, this one is starting to get spicy, to tell you the truth. I love it, Nathan. Sox for Watts refused to let the Swedes just use them as a punching bag here, but back comes Marlene Bjarhead as she takes over. This one is turning into a Donnybrook, Nathan. Good call. But the Swedes have come back now, and this is going to be Wu Han making her move. There's Katie Loker. So this is encouraging. It really is if you're a Sox for Watts fan, as the advantage right now, it looks massive, but they can start to whittle away at this. Nathan, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. They need to take a big bite right now, and it looks like, so that finish line will be in play at the end of the race. No points there right now, but Sox for Watts is surging back here. I'm pulling for him, to tell you the truth, looking for a great race here today.
And it is going to be Andrew continue to set the pace at the front, and she's allowing Loker to sit in. That entire time all the way through, Loker was not doing anything. And Wu Yan now giving it a go. Invisibility power up, and this is how Sox for Watts might get it done with some awesome strategy. And she gets off the front here. It looks like with 8.6 watts per kilogram, she's got a gap. Is she going to hold on to it? It looks like she may be able to do so. And they get the jump and take the points across the line. What a move there by Wu Yan. But again, Team Zwift are stacking the rest, but Loker's been sitting in. Will she do the same through the castle sprint in just a moment?
They're getting close. There's reason to have hope if you're Sox for Watts, although the Swedish Zwifters are throwing more coal on the fire here. I have a feeling after that first sprint, there was a little bit of that moment where you're thinking, Nathan, if you're Sox for Watts, oh, so it's going to be that kind of party, huh? And you realize that I better rock up because this is going to be brutal. It's only 20K of racing, but I mean, look at the elevated heart rates that we've got out here. This goes back and forth now because every time I think the Swedish Swifters might be in a little bit of trouble, they slam that door again. So it is really, really hard to put these Swedes under pressure here, but Sox for Watts is giving it everything that they've got, Nathan. It's not for a lack of effort. It's just this quality that you're seeing for the Swedes. And Nathan, if we take a minute, how many times have we seen this Swedish team deliver? They're one of the OG squads in esports, and they have always been strong. There's never been a weak edition of this squad. And it's going to be Anna Embring moving up to the front with Marlene Bjarhead there, but Sydney Andrew taking a turn here. Sydney Andrew is a breakthrough rider here in esports, and she's trying to put some pressure on the Swedes. So, Nathan, if she can keep the Swedes chasing her, maybe Wu Yan and Loker can get 1-2. They're going to need to start having a couple mega sprints here and pulling back 10, 15, 20 points per sprint if they want to start to right the ship here.
This is a nice little move. Andrew's continuing on. Sydney Andrew here is not giving up the ghost on this attack. I mean, it's not a full-on attack, but it's a really high tempo. And I think that's really what she brings to the table is this threshold effort that she can throw down. So they're just using the matches that they have. They're using the talent that they have here to force the heart rates of Team Swifters to come up. And the reality of the rest of Sox for Watts can just sit in. They're going to set it up right up until most likely that next sprint point, force the heart rates up and a little bit of energy out of Team Swifters, and then it's almost a lead-out train then for Sox for Watts. Very good on the tactics here. The strategy coming from the Sox for Watts team is just next level. The power, though, from Team Swifters, they're 130 to 68 at this point. It still comes down to the line.
I agree with you. The tactics are strong right now, no question. So Sydney Andrew is playing a card, forcing the Swedes to chase. This next sprint is going to tell us an awful lot. And it looks like she's got a teammate jumping out of the group. That's going to be Elena Wu Yan here. This might be a big one, Nathan. The line's not that far away. I'm going to throw it to you. Are the Swedes going to swarm them here?
And it looks like Shire's got an invisibility power up as well coming across. It's going to be Andrew out the front. Andrew, I think she's going to walk away with this one. She's got 2 seconds, so she's going to get some points here. Shire is now coming through. It looks like for second. London's going to have to try and grab third, it looks like. And then fourth to the Team Swifters, maybe even fifth. But they stack the top now at this point, and it's 15 and 12. Nice little jump up here with Andrew and Shire, but how much was used to get to that line? How much power do they have in reserve? Because that was a lot of effort, whereas Team Swedish Zwifters were still able to just punch and rest. Punch and rest. So we'll see how this plays out now, as whether or not we find Andrew and Shire on a back foot.
This isn't over, folks. That advantage looks huge. It is big. But with double points at the finish, Katie Locher has shown that she's one of the best sprinters in esports coming out of Zwift community right now. You know she's going to be involved in that finale. Wu Yan also very strong. So they do have reasons to believe. I hope that they feel motivated here, because they're going to have to go next level to beat the Swedes at this point. So the Swedes now can settle in and realize that they are in pretty good shape. They really just need to avoid making a big mistake out here and letting a couple riders slip away. But they've been collecting a lot of points here. When you look at that, even though they're giving up first and second, they're collecting third, fourth, and fifth place points, which is basically equal. Third, fourth, and fifth, about the same as a first and second, to tell you the truth, Nathan.
It really is. Stacking those spots, so incredibly important. Really, if you are able to be in those anywhere between fifth and first place with multiple riders, that's what it's all about here from these team tactics. Haynes now taking over the front, looking to maybe set up Locher, it looks like, as Locher sits second wheel at 3.4 watts per kilogram. Haynes now up into 4.6, keeping the pace high. This is a nice little move, because as you head through this section here, the draft not quite as good around the corners, perhaps looking to try and keep the speeds high to force something out of Swedish Zwifters. Now Wu Yan heading to the front. Also, what power-ups they have on the table really going to matter here at this point. They're headed through, as they just head through that next banner, they'll be able to collect the power-up. We'll see what they end up with. Wu Yan now 4.6, as you see on the front, taking over. Haynes now, it looks like, next one to go. And now it's going to be a jump here coming up from Sydney. Andrew going to be the lead out. Now Sox Watts all over the front. Here comes Team Swedish Zwifters, perfectly set up though to swarm. And there's the swarm of the white and blue. SZ complete domination on this one.
Well, and that was a signature Swedish sprint right there. I love how the people standing in the street in Neokyo aren't too worried about bike racers going by them at 50 kilometers per hour. There's a lot of energy here, but that was huge for the Swedes, and now you can see that they're starting to open this one up. Oh, boy, my heart was really going out for Sox for Watts. They're giving it a valiant effort out here, but that was very similar to the first sprint, Nathan. The Swedes are back and in full effect. We saw some old school fury on that one, so clearly they've remotivated here, and that's got to be a little bit disheartening for the riders on Sox for Watts.
And as we do see, it is Sox Watts taking over at the front. Again, Andrew doing something similar to what we saw last lap. Perhaps they can pull something off here. Are they trying to get away with Locher on the wheel there? 3.7. It is, look at the avatars, Dave. We're starting to get a little bit of a line here. Marlene's following. Kat Haynes at 0.7 on the front, so she's shutting the door. And everybody else who might want to get involved is trying to go, needs to go across. They're not, though. They're sitting in. Now here comes, though, the roll through from the rest of the pack. Locher now goes to the front. Interesting enough, not something I would expect from Katie Locher, actually.
Locher's such a talented sprinter here, but I think that maybe they're panicking a little bit when you talk about Sox for Watts, as they're realizing that there just might not be enough points left. And this is where that feeling of desperation comes in. We're down to 6.4K of racing. One team is waiting already in our final. That's Sarah Snowpins after they're dominating, right? This format is smash mouth racing, Nathan, and really the team with the better sprinters comes in clearly with a decided advantage. And I don't know to a certain extent that there's really tactics that can counter just that pure ability that you've got with the sprinters out here. Sox for Watts has certainly tried sending riders up the road, putting pressure on the Swedes, and you can see that the Ghost being deployed there. And this is a big effort from them. Let's see if they can start to whittle away at this one.
Kat Haynes with invisibility power from back to front. That was a full-on attack coming from Kat Haynes over the top of the rest of the pack here. That was not a situation where she was thinking about maybe or anything. She was all in at that moment. And now at 5.4 watts per kilogram off the front, she's looking to grab all the points at this next line. Will they be able to play out these tactics we saw from the last lap? It looks like it's going to work out for them here at this point. 5.6 kilometers to go, and it's going to be Wu Yan actually On the front here, I don't know about what's happening with Wu Yan on the front of that pack at 4.6 watts per kilogram behind this as there's a chase opening up. It looks like they're happy though as Shire now comes over the top of the pack at 11.7. Haynes is going to hold on to the line here, and now Sox and Watts are doing it again. The defensive mode here from Team Swedish Swifters trying to come out, but it's not going to make it happen. Well, they're going to stack maybe 3 through 5. Will Katie Loker be able to jump to the front though and take down the points is going to be the question. And across the line, what is the result? Cat Haynes, Shire, Loker all the way down there behind in 7th place, actually. So 241, 156. There's too much stacking there from Team Swedish Swifters when it comes to the power and defensive mode that they are in. Just grabbing wheels and making sure that they are where they need to be and stacking that top of the finishing order. Dave, really, they've done an amazing job here.
Yeah, I mean, it is sort of like that classic, you don't have to be faster than the bear, you just have to be faster than your friend mindset. You don't need to win these sprints, but you can see that the points that they're getting for first and second, 15 plus 12, that's 27, but the next 4 spots are being taken by the Swedes, which adds up to more than 27 points. So again, they're not getting the gold star next to their name by winning these sprints, but certainly what they are doing is every sprint, except for one, I believe, they've taken more points than Sox for Watts. Sox for Watts is trying. It's just they're not filling in the rest of those top 5 spots here, and that's where this race is being won in spots 3, 4, 5, and 6 today.
Andrew, a little bit of a go again, trying to employ those tactics that we saw from the last lap, but wasn't able to happen there. It gets shut down very quickly. Team Swedish Swifters not letting anything roll away from them. And now at this point, they've got complete command, it looks like, Dave, of this race. It's almost 100-point spread at this point, and they've won, I think, every time through this alley almost. Wu Yan only able to get the jump on them once with an invisibility power-up as we head into the final lap.
All right, last lap, and that is the finish line where the double points will be waiting. So there are 3 sprints left. It's going to take a phenomenal last lap here for Sox for Watts. I'm thinking that there might be a chance, and here we go, as it looks like Ruth Shire, Sydney Andrew, and company are going to take it to them, so they're not going to just accept defeat lying down. Sox for Watts showing a lot of spirit right now, as this is Ruth Shire hitting out with authority now, trying to put pressure on the Swedes. That'll score 15 for Shire.
Look at the defensive mode. Look at the defensive mode from Team Swedish Swifters. They just stack 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's just nothing that Sox Watts can do against the kind of power that they have. Let that one go, whatever, it's fine. We'll just make sure we get, 2nd through 6th and continue to open up the gap. It's over 100 points at this point. I think it's an impossibility, and it's all for pride now, I think, to the line.
Yeah, it's been 2 definitive victories out here today from Saris No Pins and now the Swedish Swifters. So we've found 2 worthy adversaries for our final. I guess I shouldn't put the cart in front of the horse. They still got to close out this deal, but it's looking incredibly good for the Swedes right now as they've done all their work. We're down to 3K to go, so 1 castle sprint and then double points at the finish line. Sox for Watts, though, no reason to hang their heads, as they'll be back racing in our community races in ZRL, and they've got a lot to look forward to. It's been a really fun test series here with Zwift Knockouts, and this format now in our semifinals, the smash mouth racing between the 2 teams, and we've seen, again, the teams that got the numbers, the quality sprinters, have been able to deliver. 2 sprints left.
Loker off the front. Andrew on the attack, got Loker on her wheel. Loker then sits in. Probably nothing to do, obviously, about the points differentiation at this point, but all for pride at this point. Jarheed does come across, and they've got 1 sitting in. Not going to do any work from what I would see, but Andrew's going to continue on. We'll see if Sydney can set Loker up for a solid sprint, not only for this castle sprint, but also for the first across the line when it comes to the 30 points. And Andrew, I mean, they obviously haven't given up the ghost at this point, Dave. They are keeping all hopes as they possibly can, looking to try and break Marlene at this point as Loka rolls on through. They've got 5 seconds. I think this one might go. What's interesting is that Wu Yan is on the front at 4 watts per kilogram, it looks like. Behind, though, and maybe just shutting the door just now, Kat Haynes down to 0.3, as you saw just a moment ago. But Elena continues to push the pace at the front there, and that might set something up for SZ to be able to stay involved with these 3 riders off the front, interesting enough. So, interesting that Elena continues to push 4 watts per kilogram. Not sure what the tactic might be there, Dave.
Well, at this point now, getting as many points as they can. Unfortunately, with Bjarhead there, it neutralizes the amount of good. It's tough at this point. There's just not enough points left, to be honest here. So Sydney Andrew is our lead rider. But at this point now, the Swedes just need to finish out this race. And Bjarhead, who's been sitting on, I'm going to guess that she surges and takes top points here. And that should be the final nail in the coffin, to tell you the truth, as she'll come through and pick up maximum bonification there. Sprinting for the minor placings now for the final time at Castle. And we'll head on over to the finish line. Great day for the Swedes out here.
First time we've seen Sox for Watts stack the 2nd through 3rd just now. So nice little bonus for them and a little bit of pride there to at least get some extra points and close it down just a little bit. 214 to 317 now. Obviously, Team Swedish Swifters walking through way with this one, but still off the front, Sydney Andrew and Katie Loker. So cool to see that they are going to race this to the line and try and get the first across the line for what would be otherwise a scratch, would be a scratch race if it was. They do have that pride to have that, but Team Swedish Swifters, they've done what they need to do, and game is over when it comes to the knockout. But here we go. Sydney Andrew going to try and go for it.
I would have to think, Nathan, that the riders who look at sprinting as their forte are absolutely in love with Zwift Knockouts. It clearly favors a team that is well stocked with talented, fast women and fast men. And this is going to be Sydney Andrew making her mark here, as she, the Sox for Watts rider, will pick up, it looks like, the win as she's on her way to the line. 450 meters. Well, I spoke too soon. Here comes the charge of the Light Brigade, as the Swedes just don't leave crumbs on the table. This is going to be the mighty, mighty Marlene Bjarhead coming through. Final sprint, Nathan, I'll throw it to you, as it looks like we're ready to send 2 teams into our final for Zwift Knockouts.
Marlene, look at this. 11 watts per kilogram and an arrow power up with
Boom.
distance. I mean, that's 100 meters, 50 meters here. And now even Team Swedish Swifters coming through with Anna Svardström. Sydney Andrew taking 2nd. I think Katie Loker in for 3rd. Sarah London comes on through, as you can see here, in for that 6th place. It's going to be Alina Wuyan, Ruth Shire, and Lisa Hermanson. And then last across the line, it looks like will be Shire. As it is, Team Swedish Swifters take the win. Dominating performance again. And we've got our women's finals decided. Saras Nopins versus Team Swedish Swifters. Dave, coming into this, were you expecting that kind of a domination from these 2 teams?
I'll be honest, no, I really wasn't. I expected both of these races to go down to that final double point sprint, to tell you the truth. So it's been a learning lesson for all of us here on every end of this, whether you're a director sportif or one of our racers here, all of our fans that have been enjoying Zwift Knockouts. But I'll say I'm stunned, to tell you the truth. I expected this to be a lot closer.
As we're into the week number 3, Saras Nopins versus Team Swedish Swifters. You just saw the tactics. You saw some of the strongest riders we've ever seen coming out of the community, as well as the Premier Division level. And as you can see, I think we're going to have quite the battle, because both of these teams, Dave, I think, have shown that they've got everything it takes for this kind of a format. We've seen them dominate in Richmond, where there is a little bit more of a rider that can break away, can put the pressure on. It's not just a sprint to the line. But then when we saw in the eliminations, the Saras Nopins didn't even look like they were under pressure. They didn't even look like they were under pressure just now. I mean, what? But then Team Swedish Swifters and what they showed up with at that first sprint, with having 15 watts per kilogram from their rider. I mean, from multiple of their riders. I mean, this one is going to really come down to it because there's multiple different, I would say, genres or disciplines of cycling that are brought to the table for this final race, which it's going to mix it up a ton, I think, between these two teams.
So we have our men warming up right now. It looks like we're 9 minutes away from getting our first teams out on course. It'll be the same format of racing here. But yeah, Nathan, it's really interesting when you talk about the depth on your team. The Swedish Zwifters, all of the moving parts on that squad seem to be, it seems like every rider on that team can do it all, to tell you the truth. One of the most well-rounded squads. They don't have a weak link out here. It's going to be very interesting to see how they match up against Sarah Snowpins in our final.
That's a really good point. When I looked at the numbers through the entirety of the race, they didn't fade. They got better almost, it seemed like, as the race went on. Team Swedish Zwifters very defensively in control of the race. There's an idea when you are, at least in my racing, when I first started to try and be at the front of a race, being behind the 8-ball, not being with it, always kind of on the chase, always kind of like trying to catch my breath, or if you're in command and you've got resources to work with, you know where you're at, you're not under pressure, the heart rate is low, you have a lot of options, right? And it looked like that's where Team Swedish Zwifters were at. I feel like when it came to Sarah Snowpins, they might have been a little bit not quite as in control, dominating as I saw from Team Swedish Zwifters. I think that they definitely controlled and had a dominating performance and took that out. But as far as options available, there were a couple of them. I felt like Team Swedish Zwifters just had a wide open board there. And so it'll be interesting. Coming in, I would have said Sarah Snowpins for this next race. Team Swedish Zwifters just maybe go, they may be the favorites coming into this next one.
If we were racing in the same format, Nathan, with this team versus team points race, I think you have to look at the Swedes as the favorite coming in just based on the power numbers that you've referenced. I mean, that almost looked unbeatable. One thing, though, that I've loved is that this is not an exercise contest. We've talked about that. And tactics and the brain power comes into play. Now, this is not throwing any shade on the Swedes because they race extremely tactically astute. They do what they need to do. But I must say that if there's a team that will be able to adapt and change their game plan, and I know the Swedes are aware of this as well, that Sarah Snowpins team has a very high race IQ. So for racing fans out there, this is going to be absolutely incredibly fun to watch for our women's final coming up next week. But Nathan, I'm going to put a period there for a moment, and we're going to turn the page and move into our men's race, as this is going to be epic. Let's talk about how we got here first. Same thing as the women. We had our group stages, much like the World Cup in football. You have to advance out of that group, and that was really, really tough. One of the teams that's been super impressive is BL13. For sure, as we're now taking a look at the teams that made it into the final. So BL13 there, that's a new jersey. It's a beautiful jersey as well. We'll be going up against Toyota Cryo, one of the original super squads in the world of esports racing. But that's our second race. As Nathan, I'm really excited to see Hexagon presented by Saris here in our first of our men's semifinals, going up against an all-star team that is Movistar. So let's break down that first race while we have a moment, as they'll be out on course in a few minutes here. But Hexagon coming out of the community, and they had a major impact immediately. Much like Next, presented by Insured or Velocio, this team was good from the gun.
Yeah, it was really interesting what we're seeing here from Hexagon presented by Saris, because they knocked out Avis Lacole, which you see in the BZR kit there, which was a huge upset. And now we're going up against one of the long-standing Premier Division teams. And it's kind of the same across both of these semifinals, actually. BL13 out of the community, long-standing, Premier Division team, Toyota Priority T. Toyota Priority T having to knock out Canyon, who's a super long-standing team as well. So the level, obviously, here across both of these races, super, super high. Hexagon, presented by Cyrus, out of the community. BL13, out of the community, jumping up to the highest level. And both of them taking on Movistar E-Team as well as Toyota Priority T. Very cool to see how this will play out. This is, when it comes to these teams coming up against each other, there's a lot of question marks because we're at this highest level where you've earned your spot. I have a feeling we're going to see things pretty dang close between them, though, here. I don't think we're going to see the kind of walkaway performance we just watched.
So as we take a look at the teams that are going to be out here racing, obviously the nerves are going to be at a very high level. Did they learn anything, Nathan, from the women's race? I know that it's all dependent on the talent that you've got and how your team is planning on executing your tactics, but what did you learn? That's a better way to put it from our women's race out here.
Well, I think that you may see some more counters than we saw in the women's race, but we did see it play out in the women's race with a counter going into the castle sprint, right? So the alley sprint is a very high-powered, immediate, high heart rate sprint, and then you can carry that speed into that little bit of a bump and then a couple of corners, and we saw a 2 seconds gap play off. We saw Sydney Andrew as well as Ruth Shire walk away for Sox Watts. Now, it didn't end up playing out for them in the end as the rest of the team were able to stack the rest of those spots and grab some points, but I do think you do have a reality that we saw play out there in the women's races where there are places on course to counter. We didn't see any counters over the top of the castle sprint necessarily play out, but I do think that the men's racing has a different dynamic. I do think that there's different speeds and there's different powers that come to the table here that may be opening up more options when it does come to breakaway situations. We'll see, because BL13, you know what they're known for, Dave, on this course. We saw them do it.
It was going back about, I'm going to say 6 months ago, that we saw one of the most interesting finales in the history of esports, where, talk about a jailbreak, BL13 attacked almost team time trial mode. It was in one of our Legion of LA Criterium races that we did, and we've never seen anything like that before or after. So you've always got to keep your eye on BL13. And then as far as Movistar goes, Nathan, this is a murderer's row of sprinters. A lot of the guys on this team have won at the highest level many times. So they are more than ready for this battle. Hexagon is an entirely French team. They're relatively new, but don't in any way sleep on this squad. This is going to be an interesting one because Hexagon is really, Nathan, getting an opportunity to shine at the highest level here on Zwift, and I'm expecting them to deliver quite a fight here to Movistar. Let's get ready to hit out here in just a few minutes. We will have another chance to hear from Hannah and her explainer. Hannah Walker, a great part of our team. And Nathan, 9 sprints out here, double value at the finish. I have to think that this race will see a critical final sprint in this first of the men's races. The 2 women's races were runaways, to tell you the truth. Both of those races were dominated. I don't know that we're going to see 4 races like that today.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't think so either. Between these races, I think that we are going to see a lot more parity, perhaps. There is a lot of, I think, question marks there as far as what Hexagon are bringing to the table. BL13, we've seen, some pretty big kicks from the reality of Andy Nichols as well as Mundell. Gamps, I think, being kind of their threshold, close down gaps. But this Hexagon team, we'll see. I'm not sure what we're going to see playing out here. I think we're going to head on over to Hannah, though, here, Dave, and see what we have in store for us when it comes to the course.
Last week, we saw riders sprinting to make sure they weren't last across the line in the elimination. This week, we're running a points race, so the riders will want to be first. We're on Neokyo Crit Course, which has 2 sprint points. The alley sprint at 400 metres into each lap, and the castle sprint at 2.1 kilometres. With only 4 laps and not a huge amount of rest in between sprints, the racers will need to ensure they are paying attention tonight if they want to ensure maximum points for their team, as a spot for the final is on the line.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Hannah. Here we go. Hexagon, presented by Ceres, will be taking on Movistar in our first of 2 semifinal battles. Only one advances into next week's final race here. This is what Zwift Knockouts is all about. So we're on Makuri Islands. This is Neokyo. It's always night. And who's going to turn out the lights here? So, Nathan, typically the teams have eased into it for the first sprint, and it looks like Movistar going to start applying the pressure here. We're underway.
Right from the get-go here, we do have, looks like pretty chill situation here. As you can see, 16.1 kilometers, you'll be able to see the entirety time up at the top of the screen. Nobody really hitting anything out, as it looks like no attacks right from the get-go. It is Movistar to the front, though. Hexagon sitting in third and fourth wheels. They are stacking the front here for just a moment. They are going to go through that first banner that is the lap finish banner. It is not for any kind of a point at this point, just for everybody knows. Then all Grupo Compacto, it looks like holding hands for the first sprint, Dave.
It's going to tell us a lot, to tell you the truth, is this is going to be straight up there, not sprinting for that arch. That's where the double points wait at the finish line. Let me introduce you first the Movistar team. Vidar Mel, the talented Norwegian, is on this squad, along with Jimmy Kershaw. These are two ZRL regulars for the Spanish-based World Tour team. They did a talent search a little over a year ago, and that's where they were able to find some of the best riders in the world to stock their team. As Miguel Angel Andres on the squad, Martin Gosterek and Luis Alfonso Manuel. Back to you, Nathan, for the first sprint.
Up and over to the top here, it looks like it is going to be Movistar with just a dominating performance here when it comes to taking over at the front. And they're not even involved, Hexagon. Are they saving something? I mean, they got completely caught out there, Dave. But 34-32,
actually,
they stacked the rest of the spots. It's defensive, Dave.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really what we've learned is you don't have to win the sprint. If you can get three riders into the top five, you're going to come out even at worst. So it's about the body of your work. It's not about one star athlete. It is really different in Zwift Knockouts than what you see in a regular race, Nathan. So even though your first blush is like, whoa, wow, Movistar crushing it, but not really. They only take a 2-point advantage, even though they took first and second in that sprint. Very interesting.
By Andres, though, this is actually a move. There's a real move going on here at Andres. It does get covered very quickly by Navarro. And now 1.2 watts per kilogram, now really backing off in the pack here. We do see a continuance a little bit here. You know, now you have two off the front here, Dave. What do you do? I mean, at this point, it's kind of like question marks, right?
They're neutralizing each other, to tell you the truth. And so, yeah, exactly. It would depend on, do you like the one that you've got to be better than the other? Then you don't chase at all. Just cool your jets and let the other team do the work. So this is an interesting moment, to tell you the truth. So that's going to be the Movistar rider in the dark blue kit, Andres, on the front, with Corentin Navarro, the French rider here for Hexagon, marking him. So again, these two effectively neutralizing each other as they roll up the front. Very quickly, let me talk about the points here if you're just joining us. The women have already raced, and we put our two teams into the small final, as it's going to be now 15, 12, and 10 points for the first three riders over the line, 8, 6, and 5 for the next three, and then 4, 3, 2, and 1 for the last four. So you can see it's obviously in your best interest here to start stacking the table and getting up in the top five. You don't need to put all your resources into winning the sprint. Just being there is the name of the game. So these two start to push the pace a little bit here in the early going. Next sprint comes up very quickly here.
Andres not giving up at all on this attack here. He's just allowing Navarro to be in the wheel, and this is the reason why, because we see Movistar looking to jump across at 9 watts per kilogram coming from his teammate. It's going to be Conde. Conde now coming out of Spain as well, now going across, but it's going to be Sutton covering that, it looks like, at 12 watts per kilogram, as you see at the bottom of the screen. Now here it is Andres, though, still off the front. 5.5 watts per kilogram, essentially leading out Navarro. The rest of the pack coming on very quickly as they've closed it down to 4 seconds. Now it's a sprint head-to-head between Andres and Navarro. Navarro getting the jump, it looks like. 17 watt per kilogram kick as he sat in. Oh my goodness, Navarro takes it down, and it's going to be Hexagon with a jump up there. They get the better on the tactics.
Well, here we go. A ding-dong battle going on in Neokyo. That was huge as Hexagon steps up and takes a 12-point advantage after that second sprint. That was massive for the confidence of the Hexagon team. Let's introduce to you all of their riders here. Corentin Navarro has already introduced himself by riding up on the front. Callum O'Connor on the squad. Julien Bouton, Pierre Almeida, and Tony Lemler. They can be awfully proud of that second sprint, and we've got ourselves a battle royale going on in Neokyo now. And this is going to be the aforementioned Callum O'Connor here as he hits out. Okay, it's going to go back and forth now as Jimmy Kershaw, the Australian on Movistar, takes over the lead. This is decidedly different than any other racing that we've seen so far today here. A Donnybrook going on right now as back onto the front is Hexagon. This is wild, Nathan.
Yeah, and interesting enough, behind here, there is, as you can see at the bottom of the screen, there's a time gap of 1 second back to Condi. At this point, Martin is trying to get back on terms, and we saw Kershaw take over at the front just a moment ago, but he backed it right on down immediately to 2.8 watts per kilogram. So he covered and killed that, and he wanted Condi to get back involved. Condi was just using an anvil power up on a 1% downhill. It's got to be way, way steeper downhill than that, and now Movistar have lost a rider 3 seconds off the back with another sprint opening up now, and Hexagon are taking full advantage of that and looking to try and pounce, because with the rider out the back now, they have so many more chances to roll the dice. O'Connor now going, and now it's going to be Hexagon looking to dominate this. It's going to be 3 on the front by Hexagon. Now another over the top with Lemler here. It looks to be maybe a walkway, as it looks like Movistar unable to respond. They took the first one down, but no, not the second or the third. It's going to be 3 across the line there. Wow, Hexagon out of the community, dominating right now.
This is a bit of a stunner, to tell you the truth, as Hexagon is starting to roll this one. Again, Martin Conde, the Basque rider there for Movistar, looks to be in trouble. He's 12 seconds. I don't see him coming back, to tell you the truth, Nathan. So that means they're going to be taking last place points on every sprint. That's not a massive advantage for Hexagon, but let's be honest, that is a big plus in their favor. It's now 5 on 4 for every one of these sprints. That doesn't mean that Movistar is lights out right now, but they're going to be coming from behind the 8 ball here. So this is going to be Callum O'Connor. It's this all-French team here that has been very, very impressive. Movistar now, it looks like they're going to move into a new tactical mode at this point, Nathan, as that's going to be Jimmy Kershaw attacking. It's old school fury right now from the Spanish World Tour team Movistar. So O'Connor and Navarro, and look at this, the chase is on here from Hexagon. They make the catch.
Yeah, and it looks like Kershaw goes over the top. I thought it was just a cover, but he actually just goes over the top and says, well, you want to attack me? I'm just going to roll right through you. So Kershaw now giving a little bit of go, but then Connor covers it. Kershaw now back to 1 or so watts per kilogram. So it looks like he's interested in continuing on. He actually gets a little bit of a gap, I think, now at this point. I'm not sure that Connor's on his wheel. As you can see, Kershaw actually backs off and allows Connor to come back. Does he want to work together with him for some reason? I mean, I would think he would just want to drop him at this point.
Yeah, I would agree. I can't see why you would give any kind of quarter, but that's going to be O'Connor coming up, and they're going to start relaying each other. So these two going off of the front, the advantage is large, almost 9 seconds. Actually, it is 9 seconds. That's the Norwegian, the Viking, Vidar Mel, on the front there for Movistar. I would think, Nathan, no reason to panic, but they must feel like they need to make a statement here on this next sprint, talking from Movistar's perspective.
Movistar with an invisibility power up here from Navimio now going up and over the top here, and it looks like they're trying to get 2 involved, and that's what was going on there with Kershaw. Kershaw wanted a 10-second or gap or so for somebody to come across to. Sutton looking to cover it up into 9 watts per kilogram. It looks like Hexagon seeing that if there are 2 off the front at this point, that will be a lot of points up for grabs, and not wanting this breakaway situation to have too much advantage for Movistar. Kershaw now opening up with that arrow power up, it looks like 13 watts per kilogram. O'Connor now 14 watts per kilogram trying to come across, but it looks like it's going to be Kershaw with the arrow power up able to take this down, and it looks like we've got a race on our hands because Movistar strike back. It's going to be a question mark though here. Vidar Mail versus Sutton to the line here, not going to be able to get the better of him, it looks like, and there are the points as they start to come on through. It's pretty matched there, Dave, with Kershaw, Navimel, Mail. That's going to be the situation for Movistar. And then 10 and 6 for 16 points there going, 12 and 8 there for 20 points total going to the Hexagon team. It's still in striking distance, 30 points difference here now, Dave.
Yeah, that one was almost a wash, to tell you the truth, neutralizing each other. I love this format for sure. So clearly right now, a bit of a drag if you're looking at it from Movistar's perspective, is they do have one rider who's gone out of the mix. These are two riders off of the front right now. Nathan, I did not know if we'd see an attack that stuck out here today or not, but it looks like these two might be fighting here. Oh, it's 7 seconds here, so it's starting to come back. This might reset, but not before the next sprint. So it's a 3-point difference between the two. The team that wins this sprint, whether it's I guess I'd call it the brighter blue of Hexagon versus the deep blue there of Movistar. If these two stay away, again, 3-point difference, that's not enough for Movistar to really make the moves that they want to start making at this point. As they're quickly watching this one slip through their fingers here, they need to do something. Let's start, if you're Movistar, with Kershaw winning this sprint.
I think they're comfortable with Kershaw off the front with Callum O'Connor. I think they are. I don't know. I mean,
I think both
just
teams
took it
are
down
okay
with an arrow power up, so we haven't seen it. So we haven't actually seen the head-to-head as of yet without a power up directly involved. So we'll see if perhaps, I mean, you're gonna have a power up every single time, so it doesn't matter. Callum O'Connor now at this point continues on the front here, but I think that Movistar are happy with this and allowing Kershaw to maybe just take those extra points every time through. It would be really interesting if it came down to a 1-point difference at the end and Condi just had to finish and ended up coming across the line and winning it out for. But now a jump here. Vidar Mail, is that going to be Mail? No, it's going to be Pierre Almeida, excuse me. Now giving a quick little jump, and that's going to give Hexagon a huge advantage because I don't think he's coming back as Navigal looks to cover, and Kershaw doing what Kershaw does. Off the front, he's going to grab those extra points, but are they stacking 2 and 3 here for Hexagon?
2 and 3, better than just the win, that's for sure. And let's see if that's going to be the case. Pierre Almeida, the Frenchman here, doing a tremendous job. This one is blown to bits, decided. Look at this now, 2 leaders here off of the front. So Jimmy Kershaw, the Movistar rider, with him is Callum O'Connor for Hexagon. These two have an 8-second advantage. It's going to be Hexagon there with Pierre Almeida and Corentin Navarro. Vidar Mel in the mix, but that's the chase. And Hexagon now, Nathan, looks like the team that wants to chase this back, and they've got, at this point, a 32-point advantage. It might sound like more than it is with double points waiting at the finish here. Movistar's still in this,
Dave, there's a gap. There's a good gap to the Hexagon riders. They've got a 3-second gap, as you can see at the bottom there, to the rest of the pack. Hexagon are about to have 3 riders in a break, and that's why Kershaw is looking to break O'Connor here at this point. But, I mean, the chase isn't even really on.
Well, if you are Callum O'Connor, are you better to sit up, let Jimmy Kershaw go, and start working with your 2 teammates here and team time trial your way to the victory? Because if you can pick up 2nd, 3rd, and 4th through a couple more sprints, Jimmy Kershaw off the front is not a bother for you. This is really, really good for Hexagon with 6.3K to go. They're in good shape.
Kershaw's job now at this point is going to be sit in on 3 riders as they get caught. Now Kershaw is set up with a 1v3 situation and monster points here off the front. And now Movistar have to burn huge matches just to bring themselves back into this situation.
Hexagon goes all in. Just take every chip you got and push it into the middle of the table, as this is bike racing Texas Hold'em at its best. If I'm Hexagon, I just push on. Oh, man. They have done a tremendous job of upsetting the apple cart. Movistar's got to be wondering what hit them. That was Hexagon at its best, a tactically astute ride. Nathan, I'll throw it back to you, as it looks like they might be gone right now. What a ride from the Frenchman.
Over the top of Kershaw. Kershaw having to pull, essentially suiting up to the next sprint. He's completely isolated at this point. There's absolute mayhem behind, as well as they're looking to try and shut things down to Vidar Mail as he looks to try and come across. Kershaw now up and over the top now, as you can see. as he's going to maybe take this down. Colin O'Connor trying to come through, but he got the jump on them, but it's going to be second, third, and fourth. I mean, it don't even matter at that point. But our Male and Almeida going to the line. It looks like Male may get the better of Pierre Almeida, but that's only for 6 points here at this point, and Hexagon now starting to walk away with this one.
Looks like a 45-point advantage. If that maybe one more point will roll through here to make 76 for Movistar, but this is starting to be a runaway. Now we're inside of 5K to go in another attack. They've been relentless out here. So the French riders clearly have come on a mission in transition. They've got now Movistar on the ropes. At this point now, it's going to take an act of God for Movistar to be able to come back and find enough points to beat these riders, because they are in real trouble. Like Canic taking on water out here now as Hexagon, Nathan. This is a command performance. I didn't expect them to spring the trap quite as they have, but they clearly caught Movistar off guard out here through the middle part of this race. That was some real tactics. I apologize for our technical difficulty there. Thanks for joining us as we pick up the Tête de la Corsa, the front of the bike race. Dave Toll here with Nathan Guerra. And thanks for joining us. We're into the finale, 4.4K left. So this is it, Nathan. And it looks like another very strong alley sprint there for the French Hexagon team. They are having a brilliant day out here. I have to admit, I'm a little surprised. I expect this one as well to go down to the final sprint. It looks like that might not be the case here as Hexagon continues to roll. What a great day for the French-based team.
Something we are learning, I think, out here today is the amount of strategy and tactics that can play out in such a small course like this. You can put riders really on the back foot and play out so many tactics with high speed jumps, using that speed to get away, and this has been absolutely awesome to watch. Now Hexagon, as you see off the front here, 5-5 from Sutton at this point. O'Connor just sitting in on the wheel, and they're all in on this, and Kershaw having to make a chase, actually looking to try and break Almeida behind us. He uses a feather power-up. You can see at the bottom of the screen the feather power-up being thrown down by Kershaw. He gets a gap on Almeida perhaps here at this point. No, Almeida just covers him, I believe. And this is, I mean, into the final lap here, Dave, with 3 off the front, Kershaw's just looking for pride at this point. He's looking to try and just get something for his team, but I think that this is almost impossible with the kind of gap that we have in points, as well as these 3 off the front.
Yeah, I mean, it's character defining. It certainly is. And bike racers race bikes, and that's what they do. They never give up, and Jimmy Kershaw certainly falls in that category. But unfortunately, from the perspective of Movistar, they just got outgunned here. A tactically astute Hexagon team that had the legs to back it up just delivered here in Neokyo. They're down inside of 2K to go. It wasn't the distance today. It was the repetition of the sprints and the points table that they've been fighting for. But this is a victory lap now at this point for Hexagon, Nathan, with these 2 riders off the front, the huge gaps out here. This was a definitely one of the rides that we won't forget from Hexagon. That's for sure.
Really proving their mettle. Like, this is amazing to see from Hexagon. They have shown up and absolutely dominated here and broken one of the best teams in the Premier Division level of Zwift Racing, coming out of the community and making the statement. This is actually one of the biggest statements I think we've seen of the year from a community team, right alongside what we saw from BL13 last week with Nichols. Now, though, again, up over the top, Pierre Almeida on top of Jimmy Kershaw, unable to do anything. It's 1, 2, and 3 for Hexagon.
certainly sets the stage for BL13 as they'll be racing with us next here. But boy, I've got to say that for Hexagon, now they're playing with the house's money out here at this point. This is going to be our final regular point sprint at Castle, and it's going to be Callum O'Connor. Once again, they go 1, 2, 3 here, so just throwing salt on the wound at this point as Jimmy Kershaw, the last of the Movistar riders, able to stand up to this onslaught that we're witnessing here from the French Hexagon team. So they're going to take this one
like
across
the
line.
Champs-Élysées here, Dave.
Yeah,
just rolling in with champagne at this point, right? Like, it's decided, and okay. I mean, they're smiling and happy in Discord is what's happening at this point. The chat's probably like, all right, boys, we did it. A little bit of a kick to the line, 9 seconds. I mean, and Almeida can just sit on with Kershaw. I mean, this is done and dusted, as you would say, Dave. Awesome.
Yeah, this is a formidable team to be dealing with now. And so we know that it's either going to be Toyota Cryo RDT or BL13 taking these riders on, but I would have to think that they're feeling a little bit of a cold chill going up their spine after watching this race. I wouldn't want any piece of this, that's for sure. So Hexagon, presented by Ceres, no doubt about it, they're going to be moving into our final, punching their ticket as our first of the men's teams. They'll be joined by either Toyota Cryo or BL13. That's yet to be sorted out here in the Zwift Knockouts. All right, Nathan, that was really something.
Yeah, and as you do see the riders roll across the line here, it's going to be Kershaw versus Almeida to the line. Kershaw sprinting for pride, it looks like, and he's going to get the better of Almeida. He has been the standout rider today, I would say, for Movistar, covering a lot of those moves. Vidar Mail now coming to the line, it looks like, with Tony Lemler, followed up by Luis Navimel. It's going to be Corentin Navarro and then Martin Gotextia Conde, followed up by Andres as well to the line. So that is the situation. Hexagon, presented by Stars, do take the win. Big win here coming from this team, Dave.
Yeah, if you were wagering on this, I bet you Hexagon would have gotten pretty long odds when we started. And that will no longer be the case. They have arrived at the high end of esports racing. So congratulations, bon chance to our French team in the final. That's got to be a good feeling. They'll be racing next week, and I imagine they'll be joining us on the viewership side here and watching our next two teams as we get ready for our final semi-final battle here. BL13 racing team versus Toyota Cryo RDT. Nathan, I've given up on trying to predict what's going to happen out here. It has been very interesting how, again, it's incredible how these teams bring the tactics and their abilities, and you just don't know what you're going to get out here. This format of knockouts racing, going from elimination into this points race, it's been very interesting. Some weeks teams find themselves under a lot of pressure. Other weeks, like we saw with Hexagon, they're right in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey, as well as you did see on that board just a moment ago in each round of knockouts here, trying to hold on to get to this point. We are going to be crowning some champions in the finals next week, and definitely having to earn these spots each and every week, bringing different tactics to the table. Hexagon, though, man, coming out of the community, we said this in the community races over this last year or so. When they first showed up, I think it was late in 2021, we started getting a little bit of a, who is Hexagon? Wow, they're really dominating here in the ZRL. They're really dominating in the TTTs on Thursdays. And then next thing you know, we find them here in this new knockout series, coming up to this Premier Division level and showing us that they are no joke. Absolutely just walking away with that one. I think the rest of the Premier Division teams are going, okay, there's some new kids on the block.
Yeah, I would completely agree. Hexagon is certainly going to be one of these teams that will have around for a long time, I have the feeling. Speaking of being around for a long time, Nathan, Toyota Cryo, this is a team that does an amazing job of staying current. They don't just have a great history, but they seem to keep finding new talent out there in the Zwift community, and they are ready for what's going to be a battle with another team that I would call new kids on the block, BL13. A good way to note that is that these squads have just gotten their in-game Zwift jerseys based on some big ZRL season wins that they've had very recently. So this will be an interesting battle coming up.
Now, what's interesting about what we saw getting to this point with Toyota Priority T is they went up against Canyon Esports. So, we saw Lionel Viasen trying to battle against that team at the end. And there was so much parity between those two teams and such a high level of competition that you didn't have this like absolute standout or anything, right? It still came right down to the line, a 2v1 type of situation. And so because of that, your predictions about what they're going to bring to the table here, you don't have this like, oh, they're the dominating team coming in, but they've been around for so long and they were up against Canyon Esports. Then there's BL13. They made it happen with a solo rider that really just had a knockout performance, literally knocking out two other riders and making it to the line in first place with Andy Nichols. So, coming into this year, there's a lot of hype around BL13. There's a lot of, wow, they've had these amazing tactics, these breakthrough rides, these upset moments. Can they do it again? That's the question here, because Toyota Priority T versus Canyon Esports in that last round, that's a pretty high level of selection. Can they do it again? Do they have that Premier Division? And again, I know we've asked this over and over, and they've shown us over and over. I think this is going to be the real answer here up against Toyota Priority T. And then if they make it to the finals, talk about the hype around BL13 and Hexagon, two community teams at the top. Two Cinderella stories making it all the way.
Cinderella versus Snow White or something out there, right? I don't know quite what I mean by that, but
well, who's
there's
sleeping?
no doubt. No one's sleeping. Good point.
Gosh.
But Nathan, here's my take on this: is that without a doubt, knockouts is not about having one or two stars on your team. It's about depth, consistency, and bringing 5 strong, useful riders to the start. We are now just moments away from launching our final 2 teams into orbit. Nathan, you make a great point. BL13 clearly coming out of the community. One of the original community teams, Toyota Cryo RDT, getting a chance to show who's got the moxie. They're going to have to dig deep out here. Same format. We're going to jump right in. It's 20K of racing, 4 laps out here in Neokyo, and the first sprint comes up pretty quickly here. It's alley and castle sprints with the big points waiting at the finish line. The team in white and blue, that's going to be Cryo. BL13 right now a little bit behind the 8 ball, as it looks like Cryo's going to hit hard early. Nathan, here we go. Our final race in the semifinals here. Our last semifinal race, I should say.
A quick little response there from BL13, as I think Toyota Car D10 just had your usual Zwift start. We saw a quick little 8 watt per kilogram, 9 watt per kilogram. Not full on attacks, I don't think, but just making sure they get up to speed. BL13 responding really quickly to that and getting into a pack here. They're starting to roll through at about, I think they're probably in that 40-ish kilometers per hour here at this point, so nothing too super serious. It's not full sprint mode, and it's back to holding hands, setting up for this first sprint.
Actually, I don't think I've seen the power this low all day, which it's bike racers are going to race their race. And this one, it looks like we're going to set up really a straight up sprint this first time without an attack leading into that line. So let's see, that's the finish arch. The only time points that are available there is the double points at the end of the race. Yeah, this is going to be a straight up throwdown for the first sprint, Nathan.
Yeah, it's about to open up here. And here we go. The first jump is going to come from, it's going to be Martin. Mertens here over the top and getting the jump on everybody by 1 second here. The jump also coming from the rest of Toyota Car DT. It's going to be Vanden Eckhout also there. BL13 trying to hold on, but they're going to end up taking the 3rd spot with Thomas Berry. But it's going to be Toyota Cryo DT with a solid 42 points right from the get-go. A punch in the mouth. That's the first uppercut to the face there. BL13 on the back foot.
Well, very impressive, because there's no way that BL13 didn't see that coming. That was brute strength on the front. We saw Brad Guveris, the South African, out racing yesterday. So clearly he's a motivated racer. Boy, this, when you look at it, Toyota Cryo has a very strong squad. As you look at the Norwegian, Havard Jelnes, he's won in the ZRL. I would say Brad Gutierrez has been one of the real up-and-coming riders here. Martin Mertens has already proved his strength, and Bart van den Ekhout is danger personified. So if I am BL13, Nathan, and they certainly have talent, there's Michael Gamps, the Danish rider, I'm going to try to deploy some tactics. I just don't want to straight up sprint with Cryo every time. So let's see if they can pull a rabbit out of a hat here.
Yeah, and it's a good point, because I think Nichols and maybe Mundell are their matches when it comes to sprinting. You know, that we do see in chat, actually, as well as it's just a well-known almost meme at this point across the community that Michael Gamps is off the front, Michael Gamps is off the front, Michael Gamps is off the front. So that's essentially said over and over again, as Gamps tends to be the attacker. We did see him off the back in the sprint there just a moment ago, and I think you know, there's going to have to be very well-timed attacks if they're going to do anything whatsoever. They cannot be very close to these sprint points. They have to do them from pretty far out. And Nichols now gives it a go really early on. Do not want to come to the line with them. There it is. Barry follows it up. This is what we saw in that crit race with Legion of LA back in December, Dave. We saw them with these coordinated attacks. Martin Mertens goes, but it's only one rider with two.
But this should put 2 in the top 3, I believe. Let's see how this one scores. But BL13 is doing exactly what I was talking about, Nathan. They decided to get out in front of it. They weren't going to just sit there and let Cryo RDT throw body blow after body blow. But Cryo is back, and this is going to be the super talent Martin Mertens there. But again, it just goes back and forth as Michael Gamps is there. Will the Dane hold on? Nathan, they're coming in hot.
Yeah, Gamps with the counterattack. Is it going to be enough distance, though? He's got 1 second. Can he hold it to the line? They're coming on strong. It's going to be Mundell right there neck and neck with the Toyota Crown T. I think Gamps held on. But Van den Eyck takes, I think, the second, and then Mundell for third. But Gavaris and Geldins are right there. Nichols, Thomas. Whew, this is pretty evenly matched, Dave. Nobody really winning out too much here. It's not even 20 points, Dave. It's very close at this point still.
I have to say, Nathan, that even though the points didn't change that much, that was a good one for BL13. I think that they really stood up there, and even though it wasn't a dramatic shift in points, they showed they're here to fight. They're ready to go. So that was, I'm going to give the advantage to BL13, not just on points, but spirit on that last sprint. Get ready, folks. We got a good one coming your way here. This is our last race in our semifinals. One of these teams will advance. Really a big thank you going out to all of our teams for taking part in this project. We've had a tremendous amount of fun, Nathan, with the Zwift Knockouts, and here we go into the first third of the race, and it looks like Cryo's going to strike back now. They don't want to go through that again.
Gamps there on the attack. Mertens just following that wheel. It was a burrito power up from Gamps there just a moment ago. Followed up by Martin Mertens there, just making sure that he's right alongside of him. Geldins now comes across. That's the guest rider from Fusion ECT, actually jumping on over to the CryoDT team here, actually. And he has got a killer sprint. One of the top riders from that Fusion team jumping on here as a guest today. Really cool to see. Brad Gavaris now taking over the front here at 3.5, and it calms it all right down. What I'd say here, Mundell and Nichols are the bullets here. They are the special weapons of BL13, and the rest of the riders are filling in around them, creating tactics so that they can get as many points as they possibly can from this whole group. Nichols now goes back on the attack here. Martin Mertens looking to follow it up here. Theme, and it looks like, as well as Geldins here. 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4 with another rider coming through. That's going to be a feather power up being used by Van den Eyck out here now, and Gamps is off the back. He might not come back in as Nichols just walks away with this one, and it will be stacked, though, by Toyota CryoDT through second, third, and fourth. That's a lot of points, Dave.
Wow. So a little bit of a bike racing Tai Chi there from Toyota Cryo, but the advantage is only 20 points here at the middle part of the race. So BL13 keeping their head above water. This looks like it's going to be the tightest battle that we've got of the 4 races here today, Nathan. So at 11K to go, Toyota Cryo has not been able to have their way with BL13. They've stood up, and that last sprint, again, you can see the teams deploying different tactics. This is going to be fun to watch as we move into the second half of this race. Again, a 20-point advantage right now for Toyota Cryo, there's still enough points out there to give a lot of hope for the men in yellow, the BL13 team. Christoph team, the German, there's quite a few Germans in the mix here, as Martin Mertens. These are two of the cornerstones of that Toyota Cryo program, and they're starting to assert themselves here, Nathan.
Interesting that we didn't see a counter here at this point. I thought perhaps we would see something from BL13. Maybe there's nothing left in the tank at this moment. They just want to set up this next one for a pure out sprint. Last sprint, we saw them employ a few tactics with some early attacks. We might see that again here around the corner. It seemed to be their favorite place in just a moment, but perhaps they're going to go more toe-to-toe on this next one, Dave. They're going to see how that ends up playing up with them. Wouldn't be expected for BL13, but maybe they saw a chink in the armor when it comes to being able to go to the line with a few of these riders.
Yeah, it's interesting because you try techniques and you see what kind of success you've had. And BL13, I think the one thing they've realized is they're going to have to be aggressive out here, Nathan. They can't wait for the sprints. There's a Ghost PowerUp being deployed. Let's see who we've got. I think that's Michael Gamst. There it is. You certainly called that one right. As Gamst on the attack again. So that's going to be BL13 rolling the dice. Martin Mertens looks like he's chasing. And here comes Cryo, the entire team on the gas right now. Dave Griffiths trying to get up into the mix, turning into a Donnybrook right now. Gamst on the attack.
And this is a great move by BL13 to set up the rest of their riders, actually, as Gamst gets that 1 second off the front here. The rest of the riders can just sit in on the wheels, follow the moves of Toyota Cryo DT, puts Toyota Cryo DT on a little bit of some match burning here. Now, will there be a roll through from the rest of BL13? Perhaps, as they take this right-hand turn and another right real quickly. No, they're going to just set up with more of a quiet roll into this next sprint. Finally, here we go into the cobbles. We do see the steamroller run Mundo. Mundo now going to open up and be the lead out here, but maybe is there the gap there? Now Gavaris coming on through. Gavaris with the invisibility power. Barry there as well. Now it's going to be a feather power coming on through for the Cryo DT rider. Yeldins is going to take it down, but this is pretty even, Dave. Lots of BL13, lot of yellow there. And now we can see, though, Harvard Yavin and Brad Gavaris, but it's kind of evenly matched there, Dave. It's only 24 points there. It has not opened completely up.
Yeah, only 4 points extended there by Toyota Cryo. It's interesting. You watch the front of the race. We've all been doing that for our entire careers of enjoying racing. But it's really these spots 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that seem to be deciding which way the points are going out there. So this is the group, 8.7K to go. That last sprint, slight advantage to Toyota Cryo. And Nathan, that'll be encouraging for them as they've been able to weather the storm here from BL13. I think they're going to be really, really motivated heading into the back half of this race. BL13 is going to need to redouble their efforts here if they want to beat Toyota Cryo.
Yeah, I mean, 24 points, it's not a lot, but it's not a little, right? I mean, there's still plenty to deal with here. And Nichols, I want to give a shout out to BL13 and the support that they give each other and how good their communication is. Nichols just made a little bit of a tail off the back of that pack to make sure Gamps could get back involved. Gamps was pushing 6 watts per kilogram after that sprint to just get back in there. He is more, as we said, their threshold rider, their breakaway rider, but not one of their sprinters. I just saw Nichols go right to the back. One of the other riders, I think Mundo was there too. They created a tail, and boom, Gamps got right back on a lot quicker, and it means that he can get resources back a lot faster.
Just like racing in real life, Nathan, the athletes, it's the subtle things that they do that are huge and make you a valuable teammate. And that was a great example. Thanks for highlighting that. We're back to the action here on the front. There's that finish line. They've got a couple laps until there'll be huge points there. This race is looking like those finish points are going to be the decider, Nathan. The first of the 4 races where that's going to be the case here today. We'll see if that holds true. This is going to be Martin Mertens, the German, attacking again. This is a big moment for Toyota Cryo. They're putting a lot of resources on the front of the race. Back to you, Nathan. Toyota Cryo's hitting out.
Yeah, but they made a mistake there, I think, Dave, opening it up early and perhaps giving a couple of spots up with the lead out for the men in yellow. It does close it down by 2 points. 2 points bring back for BL13. So they're on the defensive here. You know, they're defending their position. They're defending their position at this point, and it's only given up 2 points. Wow, talk about it very evenly matched, because it's 4 this way, 2 this way, 4 this way, 2 this way. And I think you're right, Dave. These last 3 sprints, it's going to be all about who can stack the top of this. It might come down to only a couple of points here. We'll see if they can hold on to this 20-point gap at this point all the way to the line.
20 is nowhere near enough that you can feel comfortable, Nathan, is it? I mean, yeah, I think you have to be over 60 points to think that you've got a little bit of breathing room here. Again, those double points at the finish are going to be critical. This will be the race where that comes into play. This is going to be Martin Mertens. Clearly, they've designated him as the rabbit for the team, forcing BL13 to chase, trying to take them out of their comfort zone. If you're going to race in esports, you've got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And even though it's only 20K, you're uncomfortable for this entire way. Who's been dropped, Nathan? It looks like BL13 has lost Michael Gamps. So that is a problem for BL13. Gamps has been peeled off the back.
Yeah, he has been. And what's interesting
coming
here
back.
is his main role to play is going to be trying to set up some sort of a breakaway. Will he have anything left in the tank? And you do see that Geraldine's, that's why I was wondering why CryoDT were setting a pace at the front. It had everything to do with not making it easy. They weren't attacking. It wasn't 6 watts per kilogram, 7 watts per kilogram, but they were like, well, set a high tempo. Don't make it easy on Michael. Talk about really just driving the nail in a little bit there. Nichols now goes up the front a little bit. The moment that Gamps gets back on terms, though, and he goes to 7.2, this is a real move here coming from Nichols now at this point. They're going to force CryoDT to come over the top as they allow Gamps to get back in the pack, and now the chase is on. Cryo's going to shut it down real quick.
Yeah, Toyota Cryo's more than happy if you're having a bad day to help you have a horrible day out there. But Michael Gamps has fought back. He's in the group. So that's very, very impressive riding from the Dane. Here we go. Nathan, BL13 is going to start pressing. There's no doubt about it. They're a little bit behind the 8-ball. Go ahead.
Gamps over the top. He just goes right over the top. I love this guy's heart. He uses his steamroller, boom, into 8 watts per kilogram. But that's a great role to play because he forces Vandenek out there to the front. The Belgian rider has to lead things out. Kavaris now goes over the top. Will the rest of the team, though? They get caught off guard. They should have went with it, and they didn't. They allow everybody to come through, but it's a lot of points actually here for 3rd through 5th. I think they stacked that a little bit. It's, again, pretty even, but it looks like they actually came back in points. They stacked it for 3rd through 6th, 7th. Wow, what an amazing job here by BL13. And Kavaris, and look, they led things out. It was good for them to take those first couple of spots. But the reality is that jump gave the rest of BL13 the perfect momentum to stack the rest of those spots.
Unfortunately, they're at 26 points back now, so they gave up a couple points. They need to be getting a couple of points now. They need to be tightening this up, not letting it run out a little bit further. So, yikes, this is going to be close. BL13 is coming old school fury in their mindset, but I would have to say Toyota Cryo not showing a chink in their armor right now, Nathan. I think they're feeling pretty confident here as we move into the finale for the last semifinal race that we have here today. One of these two teams will advance into our final.
The accordion that is Michael Gamps. Off the back and then comes back in, off the back and comes back in. I mean, at this lap just now, it was out to a 3 or 4 second gap. And again, Gamps is back in the fold. And that last tactic that they played where they just let him roll right through, it did set up BL13 pretty well. They just went a little too late. They allowed too much of a gap to I think they could have overtaken or gotten the better of Toyota CryoDT there if they would have been more on top of the wheels. They just didn't get the jump at the right time because they had to chase Gamps. They did chase Gamps. It set them up, but they did not capitalize at the right moment, and that might be the race right there. We'll see, though. There's still 2 more sprint points to go, and here goes Nichols. Early jump again.
All right, well, this is a bid to try to snatch some points out of the hands of the devil here, as this is going to be a big, big move. So Andy Nichols has hit out, but look at the numbers now. Dave Griffiths, his teammate there, second wheel. Harvard Zelenis, though, responding. It's all on the line here with 3.7K to go. A desperate attempt from BL13 to start snatching points back. And Nathan, they're going to get at least a few, it looks like, but that's going to be Zelenis first over the line, trying to neutralize this big effort, but that was a good one there. It's getting closer now. 26
wow,
points.
244. This is a tough one for BL13. They really have to do something now. They have to put this team on the back foot. They have to make them chase. And it looks like Mundell's going to go, and that's going to be what they're doing here, trying to soften up the legs and perhaps see if they can put a chink in the armor. You know, Dave, oh my goodness, this racing is so about counter moves.
It sure is. And I would have to say that the ability for Toyota Crowd to stay calm and react to what's at hand for them has been the secret to their success out here. They haven't made any extra efforts. They've always been there for the sprints. They've done a tremendous job. And it's starting to look like BL13 is going to have to really, really find something special in order to beat them now. 2.9K to go out here in Neokyo.
And if anybody can do it, BL13 have had the upsets over and over and over again. Is Gamps going to do the roll through again as he comes back to the pack? No, looks like he's going to chill. Well, 5.2 now to the front. Is he going to roll right through? Martin Meritens, though, covering it very quickly here. And interesting here, Dave, you know, Toyota Priority, Toyota Priority have done their job that you just said there. They have not been unsettled by the tactics that have been really well employed. Honestly, I think BL13 have brought a mega strategy. It has been an amazing strategy. They played great chess, and Toyota Priority, they countered every move the way that they needed to.
Listen, I completely agree, Nathan. BL13 has tried everything they could out here. Toyota Cryo's just so strong that every now and then there isn't a technique to beat someone. They're just the better team. And that might be the case out here today, but I have to give credit to BL13 showing a lot of heart, and they're not laying down. And it's also not over. They could still advance, but they're going to have to do something incredibly special out here. Michael Gamst is all about magic, that's for sure. Martin Meritens is going to cover, and Toyota Cryo is not giving an inch right now. No gifts, that's for sure.
Like here a little bit now. Nichols now over the top. Is he going to continue? No, he's going to chill right on out. Interesting enough, what we just saw there was the close down from Meritens. Then I saw 3 BL13 riders. They're on the wheels of Cryo. I thought for a second perhaps they were going to jump over the top. Nichols goes very early here. 11 watts per kilogram we just saw from him with some feather power-ups. He's matched very closely here by Brad Gavaris now. Gavaris to the line. It looks like Nichols might be able to get the better of him if he sets this up correctly here. But no, the speed comes on through from Gavaris. Stacking? No, it's going to be 1-2 for Toyota, it looks like. And 3, 4, 5, I think, for BL13. That's most likely going to extend the gap, Dave.
And it did, right? And so what we're looking at now is it's got to be all in. I'm going to watch closely. BL13 has pulled some amazing moves out here. But next up is the finish. Double points for our final sprint here of this round. Round 3 of Zwift Knockouts. It's all come down to this. Can the team in yellow shock the world and upset Toyota Cryo?
And now it looks like Michael Gam's going to get back on terms again. Will there be a roll through? It's going to be right into the last 800 meters here. Will he just be the lead out man? Here comes Martin Meritens, though. He says, forget it. I'm going early. And now the cover does come from Gamps, actually goes with him. He rolls through the pack, uses a steamroller, and jumps right on the wheel. Nichols now jumps across here as well. It looks like BL13 looking to just set up all in very early on. Martin Meritens with the gap of 1 second here at this point. Is that going to be the...
That'll be enough.
Death knell for BL13, or is it actually going to be BL13 able to come back because he sets them up with the attack here? It looks like coming across Nichols and Gamps, they're going to set up here maybe for a second jump of Gavaris up over the top. Now it's 13 watts per kilogram coming from Brad Gavaris from behind. Toyota DT, domination, 30 point for Gavaris. The jump is real, and it's nothing but blue and white. And we can see why the Premier Division has shown up. The Cinderella story is over, and Toyota DT, they just go 1, 2, 3, 4, game over. BL13, sorry to say, but the story to the top is over, and BL13 take over and go into the finals.
The big upside there was Toyota Cryo made it so that we didn't have to do any math in our head, Nathan. That was a definitive way to wrap that one up, and congratulations to Toyota Cryo for an outstanding victory. They will punch their ticket. There you can see our Knockouts finalists have been crowned. It will be the French Hexagon presented by Sarah's team, going up against one of the OG Zwift squads, Toyota Cryo. This really is, Nathan, if you want to look at the sell-by date, Hexagon was just minted this year. Toyota Cryo has, they go back to the very early days of racing on Zwift. So what a unique final we'll have for our men here. Racing, very exciting. This format, the knockouts, tremendous. But today, I think it was pretty clear the stronger team asserted themselves and won without really any pressure today.
Yeah, Toyota Cryo DT, they defended their position. They made sure to cover every single move. I think they anticipated that BL13 were going to bring some tactics, bring some moves, but I think they had the confidence that they were the stronger team when it did come to the line. They just need to make sure they neutralized any of those tactics so they didn't find themselves in a situation that they did not want to be in off the back in some sort of way without enough riders in a front group or something along those lines, or giving up some points where they didn't need to. It was pretty close up front, though. BL13 did keep themselves within that 20-point gap until the end of the race, and then Toyota Cryo DT, I think they kind of just opened up the afterburners and said, okay, it's time to just let the horses go.
Yeah, so that will wrap up, again, our third week of racing on our 4 scheduled weeks, meaning there are only 4 teams left out here. We'll have our women and our men back at it for our final in this knockouts format. So, Nathan, a great day of racing, and we've got 1 week to get ready for what's going to be an epic final day.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely awesome out there. The reality of Saris, no pins on the women's side of things, going up against this other monster team that's Team Swedish Swifters, where we saw a huge amount of power coming from them in the sprints. But next week's going to be a little bit different. It's not all sprints next week, Dave. We've got an elimination race for race 1, a hill climb, followed up by a points race, back-to-back racing with head-to-head teams over and over again. And now the teams get to bring all their weapons to the table, right? You got a hill climber, somebody who's got great watts per kilogram uphill. You got somebody who's perhaps a good sprinter for sprint points for the points race or the elimination side of it. So going to be a very different day with a lot of very tired legs, because what we've seen so far is kind of a 1 and out situation. Now we've got 1, 2, and 3 and out. So totally different when it comes to the teams being able to shine in every way that they can bring somebody to the table and burn all their matches.
No one ever said this was going to be easy. These teams have certainly earned it, and now we're going to find out who our real champions are. So for my colleague Nathan Guerra, I'm Dave Toll, and our entire team at Zwift wants to make sure the teams know how much we appreciate their participating in the knockouts format. It's been an absolute blast. I hope you've been having fun watching there at home, and we'll look forward to seeing you back next week for our men's and women's final. Saying right on, everybody. We'll see you next week as knockouts are into the last week of racing. Take care. We'll see you out on Zwift.